answers are inside. Yeah, I am a 21st century superhuman. Now is the time. Come on everyone, let's celebrate. We are the children of the sun. I can see you when I look into your eyes. We are the same, we are light, yeah, we are one. Here now, hear my ancient prayer and sing along. We are awakening as one. And we can make a difference. Yeah, we can be the change it takes to make the world.
Hi, I'm Cary, Ellis, author of 21st Century Superhuman. This is our 21st Century Superhuman show. And today I have with me someone I consider an amazing whiz at this new kind of information that's coming in and how we sort it all out. Mike Upstone. Mike, how are you today?
Very well, thank you, Cary. Great to talk to you with you again.
You're freezing up a little bit, so I'm hoping that we can keep you moving here.
Okay.
So today we're going to talk about making your own money. Is that what we said?
That's right, Cary. Yeah. Conscious currency creation is another way of putting it, I suppose.
And, you know, I think this conversation is starting for a lot of us right now because the economic systems of the whole planet seem to be a little bit jammed up. You know, I think there's a lot of economic pressure on people. Those who are somewhat stepping out of the system are not wanting to have to just be enslaved in the old ways, go to a job, go into debt, you know, think of retirement as the only time I'm ever going to have any freedom. We're wanting to live freer lives. We're wanting to live lives that are more based on the truth of our own energy and our own ability to create in this world. And yet, I think there's this area that we're trying to bridge right now as to how does that work? How do we do that? How do we create abundance in our lives? And so I think you have some really good ideas on this. And I know you're very involved you have a number of trusts that you're part of. You're dealing every day with how we are creating new systems and what are good methods for doing that. So Mike, why don't you go ahead and jump in and give us a little bit of your sense of what's going on with all of this.
One of the issues is that we are being sucked into a vampiric system which is sucking our energy, and it is using the scarcity of money or currency in order to do that. And a certain number of things need to be brought to the light. The first one is that we know about fractional reserve banking and stuff like that, but what most people aren't aware of is that, hang on a cotton picking minute, it's us who are making the money. Now, keeping, and we know that dollars and pounds and euros are what are known as debt instruments, and if there is a positive and a negative side to that balance sheet, then we can make a good assumption that those debt instruments are going onto the negative side of the balance sheet. So what's happening is that when we go in to create an overdraft, a loan, a mortgage, open a credit card, something like that, we're signing a piece of paper. That piece of paper is a security. It's worth absolutely nothing as a piece of paper. It's not worth anything when it's got the printed writing on it. It only gets validity when we put our signature to that, and then it becomes a security instrument. And where does that go on the balance sheet? Well, it doesn't. It goes swiftly through the balance sheet and it becomes an off-balance sheet account item. And they all get bundled up and sold on the stock market, and they make even more money out of it that way. So part of the conscious currency creation principle is that we at last need to become conscious of the fact that we're bankers. And a banker is anyone who is in the business of banking. And what is banking? It's withdrawals and it's deposits and it's transfers and it's writing checks, etc. So this is one of the key aims of the conscious currency creation, is that we need to make the money, and all of us need to do it in a community, for example.
Wow, that's a really, I think as we delve down into this concept, Mike, we're going to begin opening up new pathways in our brain, because I don't think we're used to thinking about it that way. I've even said to people when I'm kind of traveling around or happen to be visiting with someone, I'll say, well, how would you like it if suddenly there was no debt? Or how would you like it if you could generate a basic income without having to come and do this job every day that you're doing? A lot of times they'll say, oh, well, we're supposed to pay off our debts. And, oh, well, that wouldn't be right if I just had an income doing what I really liked. I'm supposed to go out and work. And so I think there's a pretty strong conditioning that the system we're in is right, correct, that we're supposed to be operating in it according to law and according to what's been going on for a long time. So how would you kind of relate to that sort of thinking?
Yeah, completely. I mean, it's our lack of knowledge of what law is, the various forms of law that are being used, and the language that gets twisted around into, away from plain English into legalese. And the moment we get into that, we thought we were playing Snap. Actually, we're now playing chess, and what we're doing is we're literally abandoning those security instruments on the desk of the bank, and they're going, oh, well, we'd better look after this, and that's it. So it's our lack of consciousness about the process that is contributing to it. There's no doubt about that, and so this needs to have a little tweak.
How did we get here? How did we get into this position?
Well, I mean, there's lots of theories about it, but I suspect that it's been going on for a very long time. And certainly in more recent times, one of the issues is that, in the old days, it was all about gold and silver and stuff like that. A pound sterling was a pound of sterling silver, a silver dollar, etc. So they were denominations of precious metals. And what would happen would be that then, they went to the goldsmiths. And the goldsmiths were issuing receipts for these deposits of gold and silver, etc. And that's it. Very quickly, they cottoned on that actually people weren't coming back to collect their gold or their silver. They were exchanging the notes instead. And once that game was created, then there was no stopping them in terms of how many notes they could actually create. And then that's control of that's how the control began of the banking system. At that stage, then you just have to transfer that up from an individual personal level up to the national level. And when it comes to wars and stuff like that, then the next thing is it's the kings and the countries that are becoming indebted to the bankers, and all through them making paper notes, basically.
Really? So it's kind of gone from our personal indebtedness to the bankers to even our countries being indebted to I like to call them the banksters, because they are kind of more gangsters than bankers.
Well, they certainly are, Cary, and this is why, their manipulation then of the political system leads us into the situation where it is not the US Treasury that's issuing the notes. It is not the British Treasury that's issuing the notes. It's the Bank of England, or it's the Federal Reserve. And and when we go into the analysis of those words and who owns them, bank of means without. That's the bank outside England. Why? It's in the City of London. That's got special status. And the same goes for the Federal Reserve. You end up with a small group of elite bankers who are controlling the issuance of the money. That is now issued with an interest rate associated with it. And that means it can never, ever be repaid. And that means people have to go bankrupt every single year. That is then a process for the transfer of real assets from the people, from the people's businesses, from their land, from their houses, their cars, etc., back to the banks. So what we have is a process of making paper that ends up with the banks seizing control of everything effectively.
It's pretty complex, I think, to the average mind to even think about this. And it's a very convoluted, difficult system. And I think once you begin to delve into it, it seems like rather unhappy circumstances we find ourselves in as a modern culture. And we are in a very dense, materialistic kind of civilization that has sort of lost its focus of operating for the benefit of the many. It's operating only for the benefit of the few.
Absolutely, Cary. And you end up with the whole system being warped around this concept. And it's deliberately unclear. Why? Because if it was so clear, then there'd be a revolution tomorrow and it would all be changed. So, this then spawns the war industries, war without end, profit without end, at any cost to the planet, to the people, etc. But the rising consciousness that is happening means that, little by little, people are waking up, and once they go through the fear process, then they're looking for the solutions. And certainly, I think the conscious currency concept is one of the potential solutions. And I think the beauty of it is when you start to look at it from a slightly different perspective, this system cannot continue. It will not continue. The question is what replaces it. And when we see the positive activities of so many people bringing so much expertise, so much positive energy, so much goodwill into what's happening, that we see that there are possibilities for manifesting all sorts of positive results happening all the time, which is it's really encouraging, actually.
That is very exciting, because I know for many, as individuals, myself included, the question I ask myself often is, how do I bridge beyond this old system into a new way of doing things? And I think there's sort of a gathering of people on the planet now who are looking at this, who are experimenting with different solutions. And so I know you spend a lot of time involved in this. So give us a glimpse, Mike, into where we can go, how we can, maybe the bigger picture, but then how we can step into our individual lives, into a way of living where we have abundance, where we're able to do commerce in a way that it needs to happen so that we can get what we need in our lives. But at the same time, we're not having to be enslaved to this old system to do it.
Well, I think you touched on part of that, Cary, which is bridge, because there are so many very beautiful solutions which are being proposed about how the next paradigm will be. And the problem is we need to connect these paradigms together somehow. There needs to be a flow of energy from this paradigm into that paradigm. And this is a key part of the concept of the conscious currency creation. It's really nigh on impossible for most people, practically, if not conceptually, to say we can just suddenly start to have a world without money. The issue is, I've forgotten what the exact example was, but, if you've got oranges and I've got jeans and someone else wants something else, then, if I want the something else and you've only got the oranges and you want the jeans, we don't have a way of passing these things around each other. So the conscious currency concept is very, very simple. And one of the important things is it makes us conscious bankers. So let's take a community for an example. It could be a village, it could be a district of a town, it could be a single house. But let's say it's a community. They get together, let's say there's 100 people, and they decide that they're going to adopt this concept. So what they would do is get their currency denominated, which is measured, and printed. So what's denomination? Well, you can measure currency in hours, like time hours, man hours, or something like that. There's all sorts of different ways of potentially measuring a currency. But the one that I'm suggesting is joules or kilojoules. And the reason for that is a joule, Joule, is a universal measure of energy. And that means you can measure literally anything in joules. The energy in an apple, falling 1 meter to the floor, a gallon of gas, whatever. So joules is about universal energy, and I think we need to have a universal measure which is not actually or psychologically coupled to, for example, the dollar. The problem with coupling to things like dollars is that if the dollar tanks and we're considering about our currency in terms of hours, then we've potentially got a conflict there in terms of how much is our currency worth, because our currency is always going to be measured back to $1 or something like that. So today it's worth $1, tomorrow it's worth $10, the day after it's worth $100, the day after it's worth $1,000. So we need something more stable than that and an independent measure. So joules is the denomination, and there's a reason for this. There are 3 functions of currency. One is a stable measure of value. Well, we now have that. through the denomination in joules. Another one is a medium of exchange, a way of exchanging between people. And the third one is a method of saving. So I'll come back to this later on. But the concept is quite simple. We come together as a community, we print our notes. You, Cary, would get a stack of notes. If someone is, say, a single parent and they've got they get 3 stacks, because everyone is valued equally in this system, in this community. But it's clearly the mother or the father who's going to actually have to do the signing on the notes. Now, it's the signing of the notes that actually makes the currency then worth something. So this is part of this conscious banking thing. The most valuable thing we have in the world is, apart from our body, our spirit, our soul, our intellect, etc., is our signature. In the world of commerce, it's our signature, because it's got limitless value in terms of making mortgages, signing checks, and things like that. So the signing of the notes takes place, and that then goes into a community group. Let's say it's a trust. Take a bunch of those notes and pass them back into the community group. So the community now, our collective group, has some buying power, and the rest is used by the individuals within the community. Now, what happens next is that through an open contract, we have technology providers who are already up and running, dealing with paradigm-changing technologies for food, water, waste, energy, healthcare, and building materials in particular. And the concept is that they have an open contract, and they say, we are prepared to accept a certain percentage for our goods in terms of the conscious currency. So let's say it's 50%. That means the community now has saved itself 50% of what it needed to spend on that technology to bring it into, help to move the community into abundance. So this is all about connectivity. The intention then is that this links with a plan for, say, building something like a straw bale barn, filling it with something like hydroponics or aquaponics, and getting enough so that that community has 3 times the amount needed first. Why? Because surpluses are there intentionally. The surpluses can be gifted, or they can be traded from the community. And the more we trade as a community, the more connectivity there is to the people outside the community. So this is another key concept coming in now, which is breaking down separation. If we make a movement has no money, we have no way of trading with people from their fridges, cars, clothes, iPods, computers, whatever it is that we need to communicate and to do the work that we do, etc., and connect with the outside world. So the concept is now that the technology provider has a stack of our conscious currency notes for, say, the energy technology that they provided. The rest of it is being supplied in dollars. That goes to the technology provider. So what happens in terms of the community? Well, if the community is following this path and this plan to yield not just sustainability but abundance, then they're going to be abundant in food, water, energy, healthcare, and that will also make a demo area for the technology providers. And this is very important. So here's a big tick in the box for the technology providers now, which is people can come in and see how we do our stuff, how we are off-grid, how we are abundant. And you could have all sorts of things off the back of this, Cary. You could have things like an eco.
I think what you're talking about, Mike, that has to do with community. Do you know people that are already living in this kind? So would people have to actually live in a quote unquote community, like a village together, in order to be able to exchange a currency system like you're talking about?
No, not necessarily. I mean, it would be if you're in an individual house and you have neighbors, hey, isn't it time to talk to the neighbor? Isn't it time to get the neighborhood together and to how you can do things for each other? So this is what I mean by community. It can be, on the one hand, an eco-spiritual conscious community. It can be just who lives near to you. And the sense of community comes through people interacting with each other and knowing each other. But the concept here is that as the community trades, what's coming in from outside is going to be dollars or pounds or euros. So, and the community members are going to be cutting their costs at the same time. So we're going to have now a stack of dollars, pounds, or euros starting to aggregate in the community account. And that is the methodology whereby we're going to do the conversion on those notes for the technology providers. So this is another key element coming in, which is that we have a conversion mechanism built into these notes. Now, what I envisage is that if the pound, the euro, the dollar get hammered economically in the markets, which is what I expect, then actually probably after a while, the people who are doing the trading with the communities are going to see another advantage of having, not just having the community demoing their technologies, buying their technologies, selling the technologies for them, but also the other advantage is going to be that, hang on a second, this currency is also inflation proof effectively. So they may even prefer to have these over dollars, pounds or euros as we go on. But it's a mechanism for bringing community together, for making us all conscious that we are bankers, or connecting the measurement of the technology with energy, and making that conscious, because what are pounds and dollars? They are things that are used to extract energy from us. So, but it's done for someone else's benefit. But the whole concept of this is that those key things are just being pivoted round, and now the benefit is for the people themselves.
That right there is key, what you just said. I think that's really important to get, that dollars and pounds have been used to literally extract energy from us into a kind of digital currency system. And we're talking about instead trading real value for real value among a group of people who've opted to do this together. So do you know anyone, or are you connected with a community or group that is doing this already? And how would you even print this currency? I mean, could you just go to a print shop and print it, or does it have to be something more sophisticated than that?
Well, I think preferably it will be more sophisticated than that. And there need to be some kind of rules, that we agree as a, collectively together, because it's not fair if the guy next door says, hey, I fancy a Lamborghini and I want to print, $1 billion worth of this stuff. That doesn't fly. So the concept is that we produce 3 years gross domestic product worth. So we project for community. We project what is the value of the food, what is the value of the technology we're selling. We can treat people with the technologies. We can sell art. We can do all sorts of things, and we just project that forward into 3 years worth, and we produce 3 years worth. In terms of the design of the notes have already been designed. They've been designed by Goa Labau, who is the designer and illustrator of the Thrive movie with Foster Gamble. Yeah. Now, the other aspect of it that we've not touched on so far is that when they go back to the community, I believe ideally they're going to have a hologram stuck onto it, and that hologram is going to contain healing frequencies. So the currency is going to be this methodology of the currency is going to be a method of making currency work positively for people, positively for the planet, and as a method of healing. So the question was, is anyone doing this already? And the answer is not in this particular way. Now, don't get me wrong, currencies, complementary currencies, alternative currencies, they're a major hot topic at the moment. You've got world-class economists who are behind them because they give lots and lots of examples from around the world where, in the Great Depression, for example, the towns in America who were producing scrip currency, now just pieces of paper, they were being virtually untouched by the Great Depression, while the town next door was being pretty much taken apart at the seams. So this is very, very important stuff. And we've got lots of modern examples throughout history of the value and the efficacy for the overall economy and for the people of producing alternative and complementary currencies. So excuse me, I've got a bit of hay fever at the moment, so I might have to sniff from time to time. But at the moment, this concept is just being worked out in terms of we are talking to technology providers. We're finding the ones who are interested, finding out what percentage they can accept, because one technology provider might be able to accept, say, 50% in this currency and 50% in dollars. Another might need 60 or 65% because they're paying more for their costs, so they've got bigger labor costs and stuff like that. But the intention is that it's all opened up through open contracts, and the technology providers who are producing the kind of technology that they are, especially the ones who've been getting resistance in putting their energy technology, their health technology, their water technology, etc., to the market, now have the potential to link together to 5, 10, 20, 100, 1,000, maybe more communities over time. But this is a conscious concept in itself, and what I mean by that is that we can start it off by the drip feed. And if you imagine, I always say, consciousness is like dropping a drop of ink into a bucket of water. You start off with one drop, it's only occupying a small area, but it's going to spread, and it's going to spread naturally over time, and it's going to have its own pace of spreading as well. So I think it's something that's, its time has come. And the organization that I work with, the Universal Trust, is looking to connect funding through to technologies, through to communities, etc. And it may well be that that's the final link that we need to actually get this kicked off and manifested, because that's the other thing. It's a lot of people out there who are not aware of this stuff. It's too conceptual for them. They need it planted and rooted in the ground, and that means that they need to see it.
You're absolutely right. I can feel like even my brain, even though I understand these concepts, is kind of going into overload. Well, how would I print the money? How would I figure this out? And you're right. I think it takes, just like everything. I mean, some people happen to have an ability at something. And I think whoever can really understand how to manage putting this concept together, it would certainly be helpful to have those kind of people involved.
Yeah. And I think the beauty, Cary, is this is very much what people are already doing in terms of their alternative currencies. Lewis in Sussex, the Bristol pound, there's all sorts of alternative and complementary currencies popping up all over the place. The only difference with this concept is that A, it's the people's signature that makes it valid. B, that we are projecting forward 3 years gross domestic product. So 3 years income, if you want to put it that way, is being put on the table to kick things off. And it's also being connected specifically to technologies that are going to be supporting the people, their quality of life, their sustainability, their abundance, and at the same time, the planet. So there's a few extra little items coming in here on top of what is quite a well-known concept. That's so it's, in that respect, it's got some special items, but it's not rocket science.
I know there's a lot of people already who are using different barter systems, so to speak. And I guess, are you familiar with those barter systems? I mean, I think a barter system is much more simplistic, where people have maybe certificates in their community where they're exchanging hours for something that they do. Maybe a massage therapist has, an hour massage is one of the things that they trade, and then someone else trades vegetables that they grow. So it's very simplistic, really, compared to what you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Very much aligned, though. I think spiritually, intellectually, it's all the same thing. It's all along the same path. This has just got a wider perspective on the connectivity. It's about connecting communities together in America with communities in Sweden and communities with Spain, and it's about connecting them to the technology providers as well. So it's just got a ramp up in terms of this, level of connectivity, I think.
So a couple of questions, Mike. Who is the person who made the Thrive movie that you said talks about this?
Foster Gamble made the Thrive movie.
Right. I thought you said somebody other than Foster Gamble.
It's the designer. The designer of all of the amazing graphics on that movie was Goa LaBau from America. He's absolutely a fantastic guy and a great designer. And
did they talk about this in the Thrive movie, or you're just saying he's the one who has actually created a currency, designed a currency?
No. I went to Goa and I said, "Hey Goa, this is a concept for this, this currency, and will you be kind enough to pick up the design brief?" And it resonated with him, and he wanted to steer on the actual design itself. And I said, "Well, this is, on the one hand, you've got mandalas on one side of this currency, and on the other side of the currency, you've got natural fractals." Reflecting that everything in the universe is built up of these patterns which occur in layers, and you've got the same patterns as you go deeper and deeper and deeper into the layers. And as you go into the nervous system, then you see things that look like galaxies and things like that. So this is just illustrating the fractality of the fact that everything is connected, I suppose.
Nice. Beautiful. Knowing how your mind works, Mike, that makes perfect sense to me, and how exciting. I hope one of these days you can show us a picture of this currency. We'd love to see it.
Cary, I can certainly do that. I can send you a link to my Dropbox, which has pictures of the currency designs.
Okay, great. That would be awesome. So one of the questions I have is about the signature, because it seems like this old system is kind of based on us sort of signing away our life. You sign for a debt, and then you're kind of liable to this system for a debt that was sort of like created out of thin air, and it isn't even real, but it is getting used that way. And we talk about maritime law without getting into all of that, but why the signature? To me, that seems a little bit like, really, why would we have to do that?
Well, because this is all about bridging between two paradigms, and the old paradigm is the signature put on those documents, and those documents being claimed by the bankers. So I think it's very important. We're bringing something to consciousness here. The conscious thing that we're bringing forward in particular is that we're the bankers, we're consciously bankers, and that this is a measure of energy. And if I can explain how that works, Cary, the value of the note is now linked to the energy that the community produces. And I'm talking about the value of all of the energy it produces in terms of its food and its health treatments and the sale of the technologies, as well as energy in terms of surplus electricity, for example. Now, we know that energy is free. That's a whole different topic, but, physicists have said there is enough energy in an empty teacup to power the entire planet 10 times over. And we know this when we go down into the nuclear and the subnuclear, there's more and more and more energy which can be drawn upon. Now, this is going to be coming out. It's already been out. It's been suppressed many times over the years. People like Stanley Myers running cars on water, for example, and totally clean energy. Now, this is going to come. I don't believe it can possibly be stopped. It's just a question of, when it starts to hit the mainstream consciousness. Now, when it does, there is a major gap potentially between this paradigm and that paradigm. Why? Because in this paradigm, everything's scarce. And if everything is a function of energy, and energy is ubiquitous, then we have the ability to clean up the oceans, to clean up the air, to clean up the land, to do to travel, between galaxies. We've got the ability to do absolutely anything and everything, and without causing catastrophic damage and pollution behind us. Now, so there is a world out there that is coming where everything is free. Now, this is why it's important to connect the currency to energy, because when that happens, what's going to happen is that energy is going to get cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. It's going to go down to zero, and we connect the notes in value of energy as well, and the notes are also going to zero out at the same time as the energy zeros. And that world, I believe, is going to be the one where everything is free, because we've now woken up to consciousness that we are truly in an abundant universe. But this is why those things need to be connected together, because if we have scarcity of money, if we have scarcity of energy, if it's in the hands of a few people instead of the hands of everybody, then we have got a mighty great gap or collision point between this paradigm and that paradigm. And unless we wire them together consciously, and we bring this to our consciousness about the energy being free and money being a function of energy and us being a function of energy, then I think we could drop into that gap, or we could have that collision point. But I think that's the final sort of key item as to the import of this currency and why it's being suggested to do it in this particular way. But I would also emphasize there is no one solution. I think so many people are doing great things with currencies. They're all moving in the same direction, but this is just one of those ideas to help to bridge that gap.
Mike, so well said. And you're one of the people I kind of fondly call you the Jean-Luc Picard of our time, changing times, because you have these really amazing solutions that you're working on all the time. And you have this mind that's capable of this detail of putting it together and putting people together. So I want to thank you so much for the work that you're doing, for stimulating our thought in this way. And I know that you are working on a daily basis with organizations such as the Universal Trust to literally be developing these things and helping bring them into being. Do you have a website or anything people can contact you at, or if people want to connect with you?
Great question, Cary. Unfortunately, the answer is not at the moment. I need to, the hosting ran out a few weeks ago, and I ended up running up a blind alley with that, so the timing wasn't obviously right to get the Trust website up. But when it happens, it's going to be, because I think we've got 3 URLs registered, theuniversaltrust.com, .org or .net, and they'll probably all lead to the same place.
Okay, great.
And I promise to pull my finger out and try and get that hosting sorted within the next week or so.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I mean, these are certainly, they're thought stimulating topics, and even putting our minds in this direction, I think, is what's happening right now. Many of us are thinking in new ways. We're asking ourselves how we can access our own abundance, how we can bridge. And I love it that you've included this idea that, and I know because I'm reporting on the cash plasma technology all the time, and I know there's many other energy technologies that are coming forward, and that we will come to a point where we will realize that we are living in a world that is giving us free energy all the time. And it will be a transition into a culture where things literally are free, but it is really the truth of the abundance of our existence. And so we have a ways to go in our thinking, in our process, to move from the current kind of paradigm that modern culture is living in, which says everything costs something and you're going to work your life for it, and give up your creativity in order to have the exchange of shelter, food, energy. And yet I love it that you have this kind of actual step-by-step pathway that says there is a way that we can actually begin developing something that can meet that can carry us into the kind of change where we will be able to connect with this truth of our abundance that is really how we're designed to live. And we've gotten a little off track. And even though many things in the modern world seem okay, it is still wars and human oppression that are supporting this current system. And it's hard to, if our everyday life is okay, it's kind of hard to see that bigger picture sometimes. But I'm so grateful for people like yourself, in particular, who are every day spending your time working on solutions. And this idea of creating a currency based on energy that can carry us into a new way of doing things is wonderful. So thank you so much, Mike.
My pleasure, Cary. Always great talking with you. Thank you for having me on your show.
You as well. You have a wonderful day, and we shall talk soon. Everyone out in the listening audience, think about these things for yourself. Ask yourself, how can I begin bridging into a life based on my abundance, my creativity, knowing that there are tools emerging? And as we talk about those with each other and share what we're learning, we have the capability of bringing forth new ways of living in this world, which is very exciting. All right. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Cary. Take care.
Much love, and we'll see you all on the next show.